Hello and welcome to your Sage Time. I'm Lillian and we have quite a reading for you today. Those of you with your sun in Sagittarius, as well as anybody and everybody else, because we are all 12 signs, as always. And this message is bigger than I can find the word, because I have tried to record this message so many times, and the voice of the voices that wants to come through me in this message is so deep and so big, so layered. It's really hard to get this through. And I feel like this is you on an individual level, that there are things brewing down within that lower dantian, that sacral and root section, like a percolating pot of something, a cauldron of expression, understanding, and recognition within universal principles that are trying to be voiced through you and from you in a way that can be heard and is palatable, but is also so much more complex than what I'm picking up the people around you are able to understand and perceive. Or even if they are, there's this sense from others towards you of, that's not reality, right? That's not real life. And it is, and you know it is, because you've done the dissonance more times than you've done it so many times. You've enveloped the dissonance and honed it in with tones of truth and accuracy and honor and compassion and severity that a severity that has to do with not compromising in truth, being able to show up in a compromising, compassionate way of relating, but not compromising the truth of who you are, not allowing the resonance of that truth that you have embodied around and gathered within yourself, not allowing that resonance to be distorted by the inability or unwillingness of those around you to claim the truth for themselves, to own it and be accountable, because of all the reasons, right? We're not here to blame or shame, nor are we here to enable and fawn. We're here to be our truth, first to find it and to clarify it and attune with it and claim it and be it. And then as we represent it out into the world up against other resonances and other voices, other structures within the society, within a family dynamic, a relationship dynamics, friendships, it's all over. To be able to be in the presence of that and hold the pure and true resonance of that truth that you've been cultivating. A truth that a Sagittarius sun or anybody who touches and works with the Sagittarius aspects of their lives know that they have done great journeys, just like the centaur is represented within and as the Sagittarius icon. And the centaur, half horse, half human, right, has this great, still has that great chest cavity of the horse, that vast heart container. One that, as a centaur, and all the asteroids in our solar system that are represented by the centaurs, that travel between planets of seen and unseen, that are able to move between the known and the unknown, the this world and the that world. They were the first, before we had telescopes or any assistance. What we could see in our galaxy as our own planets versus what we couldn't, that was where the centaurs traversed. That was where they moved between. And that arrow that is represented as the sigil of Sagittarius, that also represents the idea of honing in, being able to see the mark, where you're meant to go, where you want to go, and loosing that arrow and it hitting the mark. And also sometimes not hitting the mark, right? That was the original biblical, or when the times of the Bible were written and the word sin was used, the actual meaning at that time of the word sin was to miss the mark. It was an archery term. So to sin really is about just missing the mark, making a mistake. And there's no better tool within the history of human existence, as well as all plant and creature existence on this planet. There's no greater tool for, in fact, requirement for evolution than the mistake, missing the mark. It's one of the most important parts and essential parts of instigating and catalyzing evolution. So here we are, the shamans of the unseen and the seen. All of us in some way are that. The visionaries between what was, what is, and what could be, and how to get there. So how do we claim our voice? And originally when I went to record this message, I felt a really strong pull to speak for Lilith. I think because at first I thought that I was on Scorpio. And I could feel all this energy and conversation of Lilith. She is in Scorpio right now and just went exact, I think, yesterday with her opposition to Venus in Taurus. And there has been a lot of conversation between Lilith and Venus. And Eris is in there too, because she's close to Chiron and Aries. So there's conversation just happening there between these three feminine archetypes. And it does want to come through today. I can feel it opening and easing up. This conversation of the evolved, developed Black Moon Lilith, the one who was cast out and exiled from her home, from her family, from her sense of belonging in existence. And she was cast out because she wouldn't be subjugated by the God of this narrative. She would not be subjugated by the God nor of Adam, Lilith being the first wife of Adam, co-created at the same time of dust, and she wanted to be equal, and she didn't want to be a servant or in servitude or prostrate to the masculine, and so she was thrown out. And from there, all the mythology of darkness and evil, and she was all these things and birthed demons and so forth. And I'm not going to take away from the truth of that. In fact, I feel this energy of Lilith saying, yeah, that was true of me. I was enraged. Rightfully so. Because it was an equal polarity, this rage, if you can consider what type of other polarity it would take on the quote-unquote side of the good or the light, right? What kind of extreme polarity of sickness and distortion and in the self-proclamation of right and good and true it would take to create a counterbalance that became a counterbalance because this ideal was so rigid and so alienated to anything and anyone that didn't subscribe precisely as told to, in a way that only worked and was designed to only work for a dynamic of power over and subjugation. And in such an extreme way that, if not abided by, the individual and the soul contained within was cast out and marginalized into a position of not feeling worthy of existence, not feeling worthy of the light, of love, of togetherness, of connectedness, of nourishment and interrelatedness and celebration and community. And to be cast out in such a cold and unwavering way that this individual, this archetype truly that plays out in so many individuals, women, men, cultures, children, on and on. It plays out in such a way that not only did the archetype of Lilith embody these characteristics, she claimed it. She said, yeah, I became the poison at the edge of the jagged, rusty dagger. I became the demonic force, the predatory force. And I played that out, is what I'm hearing her say. And many of us have experienced men and women like that, particularly women embodying the coping mechanism of predatory behaviors. Certainly not likely to claim it in those terms, but we see it socially all the time amongst women and men. But here we're talking about women, sisters using gossip or slander or passive-aggressive, underhanded cutting instead of supporting, these kinds of things. And I'm feeling this heaviness, this like, don't talk about this feeling inside of me. And I think that's part of why I kept having trouble recording this retraction of, I don't want to be seen and heard and known for those parts of me. The parts of me that don't catch it or don't want to admit it or don't want to recognize how pervasively harmful it is when we belittle other women, or when we allow men to not see that they are surrounding themselves with women whom act as kind of a lioness clan who's protected in a sense and provided by this maybe head of household male figure. Oh, this is a really challenging message to get through. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. Boy, Sagittarius. And the women who are supporting this masculine head of household sort of thing are doing so in a way that it's like velociraptors almost, but psychic and with words and slander, gaslighting, yes, but slandering an individual. And it's a way of that's been used in all tribal societies since known human history to exile an individual that doesn't fit in. And we're going to continue to use this women against women model or women against woman model. And if we have a social structure that says this is the way things have to be, you either abide by these rules, by this patriarchal icon, which is or isn't relevant now. That's fine. Sometimes it's a matriarchal icon, and she's embodying the toxic masculine. She's embodying that Orthodox Christian God figure that says the feminine will succumb, will submit, and will prostrate. Do as you're told. And so the rebellion of the feminine to fit into that model had to become elusive, manipulative, predatory, cunning, strategic. Now, modern society says we don't behave that way. And even things like religions say we be pure of heart and pure intent. And so you'll see men and women waving that flag and even convincing themselves that they don't do and behave that way. That they don't push women or men out that are out of the social network, that are truly in integrity, that actually take accountability when they make a mistake. They pay it right. They make it right, or they want to, they try to. They take action to. And if they can't do it with the people, if there's resistance to that, then they do it within themselves and they represent, right? You'll see that. You've been that big, compassionate, empathic, sensitive heart that travels the distance between what is obvious and what is not obvious. And that doesn't like it, but when makes a mistake, you step up and say, I'm going to make this right. Maybe not because you always have. Maybe you have. I doubt it, because the human experience is about missing that mark. And then recognition, reflection, self-correction, evolution, grow, and evolve. So this is part of the centaur's journey, not just to go into the unseen, but to go even further. This is something that Eris represents very powerfully. And she's an Aries. She's at a distancing, but still very close approximation to Chiron. So there's the wounded healer aspect going on in there. 1 second. I need to drink a little of my juice. And Eris, like Lilith, is coming in and saying, why are you guys, humans, still holding on to an archetype of me that's so outdated? Like, yeah, that was my preteen, teenage years of being an archetypal goddess. That was millennia and millennia ago, thousands of years ago. Because Eris herself, her journey goes from her starting point, so to speak, in our solar system, just somewhere between Pluto and Neptune. That's as far in as she comes. And then she traverses all the way out into the great cosmos and enters into another belt, another solar system. If I'm not speaking incorrectly, I believe I know another belt, but she also goes into another solar system. So she travels, she represents even further, greater distance of travel between the known and the unknown. She goes to an entirely different culture of cultures that reside within a different solar system, completely outside of our paradigm of understanding. So she's this incredible voyager. You know, she's the woman in the 1800s who travels around the world and comes back to her family in a small village in the Alps and says, hey, you guys, there's so much more to life and reality and a way of doing things than what we've done, a way of seeing things and speaking and treating each other. And that is not appreciated. So she was seen as the great disruptor, the bringer of chaos. But what she quickly developed was, and eventually came to understand, was her disruption and her intentional infusion of chaos wasn't really ever to be malicious. Yeah, in her younger years, I'm hearing there's this edge of she liked poking the bear to get a rise. But she also knew that by doing so, it would, just like throwing the apple in the middle of Helena and Aphrodite and the other goddess, and said, you know, whoever gets that apple is the most beautiful and pristine feminine goddess archetype icon. And she did that at a party that she wasn't invited to, that included a community that she considered family. And she was discarded and intentionally unwelcomed because she understood something more than the participants of that family, that community. She understood that this self-idealization of beauty, like Venus in her opposition in Taurus right now to Lilith, of beauty superficially and acquisition and pretense, of gait and emittance, you know, she knew that that was total crap. That it was nice for a show, but it was nothing more than a theatrical performance. And because of her travels and her great journeys to such far reaches of another cultural and experiential paradigm and collective of paradigms of another solar system and back again, like how she was first recognized as part of our solar system in the 1920s. That was when she was first spotted and given identification, because she was close enough to our solar system to perceive. In the 1920s, this was a time where women were stomping their foot down, dressing themselves up, and also cutting their hair, a representation of what the feminine was supposed to look like, changing their clothes in a more revealing and expressive to how they wanted to reveal themselves ways, and then moving their bodies, right? The 20s, the sounds, the dance, the roar. Well, we're in that. Oh, well, we are in that again. We're in the 20s again. So 100 years later, here we are, the century anniversary of the discovery of Eris, and a time where she was given a name and attached with it an identity that was imposed upon her that didn't accurately reflect who she was, especially coming back into her home world solar system after all her travels, all her discoveries, all her learning. And I pulled a few cards, or I shuffled, and 4 cards flew out. And when they flew out of the deck, all 4 of them. They went whoo, and they hovered and they dropped. And I thought at first, well, I'll use the first card that comes forward, which is boink, the Eagle card. And then I heard this gentle, it's very gentle, and yet it's so booming presence that has a voice that says, all 4, please. Use all 4 now. In fact, there wasn't a please. The please was in the energy of it, but it wasn't a request, and it wasn't imposing. It wasn't that familiar masculine, whether it comes from a man or a woman, of do this now, right? It was this incredible feminine energy of softness, but such a gentle, pure truth that resonates with a pervasiveness that cannot be ignored. This is the song of our sisters that are coming together right now. The archetypes of the feminine, as Lilith in Scorpio is opposing Venus in her exaltation of Taurus, which, you know, again, the old outdated paradigms and attachments and stories of Venus in this position is external beauty and luxury and material. Yes, it does represent connection of sisterhood. The mothers, the daughters, the sisters, the aunties, the grandmothers, the neighbors. And I feel like that's what Lilith is talking to Venus about. She says, put down your bejeweling, your embellishments and external endowments. Strip yourself naked, much like Gilgamesh to Inanna when Inanna went through the 7 gateways of the underworld. Strip yourself of those pretenses and do so while you're in your exaltation. Don't wait to be brought down into your underworld, to have everything that needs to be released and relinquished and rebooted and renewed into something better, more evolved. You don't have to wait until you get pulled down into the darkness, until there's a loss, until there's a taking, until there's a devastation. You can do it now. You can stand up in all of your embellishments, the facade, right? Venus with the moon, that facade. All the external emotions that are not necessary, that don't reveal the core truth of who you are. Strip yourself of those. Allow yourself, in your Venusian way, feminine, goddess, archetype within, not to insert an ideal of beauty, but to break open all the layers that are preventing the true essence of what beauty is. To move through those cracks and break through them and unfurl them and unfold them, to bloom and to blossom and release and discard, and again bloom, blossom better with each generation of yourself within yourself. We aren't only working with ancestors of our past, we're working with the lineages of our future. And we do so by connecting not only into that heart space, but delving into the crevices of us that seem like there's nothing there, or seem maybe blocked, could be a way to describe it, but it also can seem like a void, or even vacuous, or just non-existent. Start moving into those areas and tapping against what looks like no wall, no place, no space. Tap against them and then start chiseling at them, because there is a place and there is a space, and it's for you because it is you. It's within you. And it's not even that it's been ignored. It's been hidden for so long by illusion of non-existence. And it exists even if not in our past. It exists in our future, and we can touch that future existence within ourselves. And that's our evolutionary opening. And it doesn't have to be done in the fall. It doesn't have to happen with a tower. It can happen with intention, repetition, stillness. and a willingness and a continual perpetual choice to see and know and become a pure core truth of you and a better truth of you. One that reaches out into the cosmos, into the vast unknown, so much so that it's able to traverse linear time paradigms. Ooh, my stomach grumbled and said, yeah, that's it. It traverses those linear timelines, and it takes that straight angle and brings it back to the circle, the feminine. And it takes that concept of the circle that repeats itself and breaks that too. It breaks that old feminine and begins to spiral. And now we are evolving. And now we understand that time doesn't need to have straight or right edges. And time doesn't need to be a trap within a cycle that repeats itself. We understand that there's something more, and it's like a spiral, but it's even more than that. It even gets to fractal, outward, inward, all the things. I mean, these are the big, like, rabbit hole concepts, right? But we know it's there. We've done the work. We've been through it. It was overwhelming, but it washed through us, and we never forgot. And it's in us, and it's now in our ancestry. It's been woken up. And it's now in our future lineages. It's already been written. So it's up to each one of us in each moment to write those scripts, to carve those edges of us in a way so clear, clean, and representative of how we want to really exist in the world, in a way that recognizes how each and every other person, animal, plant, being on this planet is experiencing life, so are we. So if there is another that is being farmed or trafficked or marginalized and psychologically bent inside out and back again, but it's not touching us in our little Venus bubble of whatever that is, we're able to say, no, I don't accept that as the reality, because I recognize, number one, that isn't the reality. What happens to those is happening to me. And I'm not going to keep putting what's happening to those that's happening to me into that vacuous void of unseen territory within myself. I'm going to go into that dark, unknown territory, out into the reaches of the cosmos, where I don't even know if I'm ever going to find shore or land or another solar system again. But I'm going to keep going until I find it. And I learn more about what's true and what's possible. And then I'm going to awaken that within me and shine a light on that and let that be true and hold it within myself, as myself, and from myself, in my voice, in my resonance, in my choices of what I consume with my eyes, consume with my mouth, consume with my touch, consume with my thoughts, aware and unaware, and what I consume with my emotions, what I cultivate with those emotions as well. So Eagle. Eagle came out, and then next was Serpent. I'm going to show all four because they came out together, and as soon as I got all four spread out, I went, oh, okay, so here we go. All right, let's bring these up, and I'll see if I can bring them to focus. Blink. All right, here we go. Oh, and I even took them out of order. So that might change the narrative a little. But everything happens for a reason. So the order they came out was Eagle, Thunder, Holy Mountain, and Serpent. And I was like, okay. So the story is sharp acuity with the eagle coming from the higher realms down into, and it looks like he's found a treasure there in some dark depths, but he's still up in the higher realms. An eagle does represent a masculine energy, a majestic energy, a greater, higher knowing that exists within all of us, most definitely. And Eris wants to come in, and Lilith is backing her up and saying, and yet there's a depth, that deep, dark, that's what it is. There's a depth of the feminine energy that goes into the depths and the darknesses of the self, and that the deeper the dive, the greater the portal is to the greater truth of the vast cosmos. So yes, eagle, you can ascend, but only up into the roof of the firmament that surrounds the world, the firmament that says this is a container of the earthly realm, and beyond that is the heavens. So eagle, yeah, you got a high perspective, but there's so much more, and you don't know it because you can't see what you can't see. You don't know what you don't know. And then the thunder comes in. Boom. Realization. Oh, there's no denying now this voice. This resounding boom, boom, boom. The bang, the pound of the hide skin hand drum. The boom, boom, boom. The pound, the bang of the heart of the earth Amma. Boom, boom, boom. The resounding hooves of the collective. Boom, boom, boom. The echoes of the great cosmos and its vast and infinite knowledge of all that is, was, and ever will be. It's a lot, and it's heavy. And we go to the holy mountain, and we contemplate. And then we have to come back down to the collective. Because that's where the real work happens. It seems like, man, when we're up on that holy mountain and we're diving deep, deep, deep within and out, 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 without, it seems like, okay, yeah, that was the work. That was the practice and the training. And yeah, there might have been, and there were, great activations within that. But the role of our processes in that is what we do with it upon return. The Kundalini, the serpent, that embodies and encompasses all four directions, that moves its belly, its underside, its yin, its feminine, across the earth mother, while exposing its outer, its backside, to the sun, the yang, the masculine. And the serpent integrates that within its body, but it not only integrates it, it reverberates it. You can see it in the trail that it leaves along sand, the collective, all those grains of sand. You can, in a rattler, you can hear it, those resonances. You can see it and feel it in the flicker of a tongue. And more than anything, when the serpent sheds its skin, because it's done all that integration of the yin and the yang and alchemizing within as it moves across the collective, the grains of sand, the individuals. All of that creates a death and rebirth, a release, a shedding of the skin, of its outer external layer, of its endowments, its Venus external showing. And it grows, the serpent grows, and it shifts and it changes. Maybe it's subtle, maybe it's obvious, probably both. And that's you. Let's pull one more card. We're going to go with Beyond Lemuria deck. As always, all the information is in the description box below. This will be an overall card to spend time with. You can take a screenshot of it when I get it focused up on the camera. Also in the description box will be any other participants in today's reading that are readily available. In fact, I've got the Rattler. I had a lot of sessions with the Rattler before I began this reading, trying to clear out any distortions that were inhibiting or making it challenging for me to stand in my true resonance, which isn't about them, whoever them is, the individuals, the collective, the whatever, that were, their influence was distorting me and making it difficult. It isn't about that, not for me. It's about, oh, I can see I'm not strong enough in the resonance of who I am to counter that when it comes in at that particular quantitative and qualitative force and number. So I need to strengthen. And yeah, I can go through the motions of dang them and they could and they should and not even that, just oh, this is why they're doing that, and okay, and assessment, evaluation, I mean Gemini mind, right? So I go there and I do that. But when I go, wait a second, that's great information for intellectually understanding, it's an important part of the step, but where the stuff really starts to change, where I start to have an impact, is when I drop that into that heart, into that centurion, right? The man is the upper half, but it's the heart of the horse. When that drops down, that the centaur is really emboldened with his or her power. Also, I'm using an essential oil blend called Clarity, right? I can't tell you offhand all the ingredients in it. Well, there we go. But there'll be a link so you can look it up. And if it sounds appealing to you, I use it a lot. I work with that and selenite quite a bit. They work very, very, I mean, yeah, obviously complementary, but I was surprised at how instantly they teamed up. Even just having the bottle close to a block of that stone, selenite. So I'll include that as well. All right, so our Beyond Lemuria. What did we get? All right, guys, here we go. Let's bring it into focus. There we go. Radical expansion. There's our great serpent. Not just pure white, not just pure on one side. This serpent has integrated darkness with white, with light, to create the brilliance and mutability of ever-changing spectral colors. They twist and they turn. They have wings and fins and gulls and etheric and form. They're all the things in all the spaces. You can see all these dimensional overlays of different realities. I mean, wow. There are a lot of cards in the deck, and this is the first time I've seen this one. This one is uniquely its own. There is so much transmission in this. Radical expansion. It occurs from the deepest, darkest depths that we can dive into in all the areas within ourself. And so, my friends, that's what we're up to. And the more we do it, the stronger we get and the more true to course we become as. So we repeat and we grow, we alchemize, we grow, we evolve, we shed, and we repeat. And then we come down off our holy mountain and we slither across the collective sands and we etch our reverberations in our trail, and then we go back to it again. We sit on a rock, a stone, and we take in the warmth of the sun radiant at our back and on our bellies, and then we go into the darker crevices and the shadows, and we love on that, and we feel the truths of it, and we recognize. This is a wonderful conversation that these three feminine archetypes have brought to us: Eris, Venus, and Black Moon Lilith. Three powerful feminine and very distinctly different in their backstories are coming together and they're listening. And when Venus says to Lilith, your edges still have poison on them, she doesn't come back and snap. She pauses. She collects herself. And then when she's able to and ready, she listens. And same with each one. Because they want to grow. They're just tired of being told who they are and how things are. It has to be different because we're done with it. We've played the scripts and the narratives over and over and over again. We know we don't have to anymore. We know there's something more, something beyond our sight and vision and knowing. And damn it, if we're not going to find it, become it, exemplify it, and let the world around us have a conversation with us so that they can choose and become a co-creative, individualized sense of sovereignty and agency, community, a global community that has all of a sudden become also cosmic. This is it. We've got this because we're already doing it. There's no stopping this momentum. So grab your surfboard or your boogie board and let's ride the waves, and let's do it together. We'll help each other out, right? We come forward with patience, and when the other one lashes, when we come to them and say, we can do better, we can be better, and they do a thing of obstinance and or putting you down or pretending that they're in agreement and then talking shit about you behind your back and creating a story that what they do is relevant to inform. What we do is essential to change. And what we do is we hold stance as a resonant return to the highest truths and what's truly possible within our soul's heart, the heart of our soul, to become and be and express. Okay? It just keeps happening. All right, my friends, thank you for being a part of this message, for witnessing me as I work through this message, and for bringing your own you-ness, your essences, known and unknown, already having been and yet to be discovered. Bring it in, bring it here. I'm in for it. I'm in it. I'm showing up, and so are you. And I'm so grateful you are, because we all need you. All of us. You are essential in this. I love you. I love you. I love you. Aho. And so it is.